It's nice to see all of you here, and thank you for taking the time to visit our session. I'm Denise. I'm from the Open Data Lab based in Jakarta, and I will share our experiences with you in using photography to make data more understandable for basically regular people. So let's start with a quick raise of hands. How many of you have any social media account? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. How many of you have an email? Really, not everyone? I'm surprised by that. Almost everyone here obviously has either a social media account or has an email or uses Google Maps or Siri or one of those things. And the very fact that you are all in Republica means that obviously you have data traces, you have data breadcrumbs, you have produced data, and you are also a consumer of data. So data is everywhere. Now the challenge that remains is that there's this imbalance. Everyone produces data, but not everyone fully understands the power or the influence of data, and there's still this disparity wherein not everyone can make full use of data because of that lack of understanding. And that's what we're trying to address today with this session. I'm going to talk about our experience with using data, and particularly open data in Indonesia. And with the Jakarta lab, with the Open Data Lab in Jakarta, what we try to do is we try to make data work for everyone, whether they integrate it into their work or they use it to empower their communities, as I will talk about in a bit, or even just to have a better understanding of their surroundings. So I'm not sure, but how many of you have seen the exhibit just directly outside, like between the stage 1 and the networking area? Awesome. It's so awesome that some of you have seen it. For those of you who haven't yet, I highly encourage you to please drop by and take a look at it, because that's what I'm going to be talking about. It's a project that we call Data to Life, Life to Data. It's made of 2 components. The first is bringing data to life, wherein we used photography as a means to share the stories of how data is produced, translated, and consumed. Whether it's through online platforms or through mobile apps or through newspapers, the way we consume data affects how we understand data. Whether we're government officials or regular citizens or something, there's that correlation between how we produce it and how we consume it and our understanding of it. The second component is life to data, where we show how data represents the realities that people face every day. When we're talking about open data, or specifically open government data, and you look at it, usually you will just see numbers and blurbs of text that's, unless you're a data analyst or you have a lot of experience with working with data, you will probably struggle to understand. Me, as a designer and as a person who works on communications, I still struggle to read, like just raw data. So I also admit to that. And what we tried to do is we used photography to actually then make that very data understandable for everyone. So, what could be numbers in a government data could translate to clean water sources in a small village in Indonesia, and how it can also translate to building a small business in Indonesia to manage the trash problem in one of the areas there. So this project, we did it. How did we do it? It's basically we had 4 amazing partners who helped us. The biggest help that we had was with Goethe Institute, and then we tapped 3 local partners because they know the field a lot better, and that's super important that you have local partners. We empowered 8 organizations, and we taught them through 3 workshops wherein we built their skills on data, on ethnography, so they have an understanding of the context, and in photography. In the end, we had 78 photos and 5 data stories, but here we're only exhibiting 13. So I'll just give you 2 quick snapshots of what you will see in the exhibit. The first one is this photo. What does this photo tell you guys? Hopefully it tells something about water. Yes? Yes? Okay, awesome. So this was one of the products. This is one of the photos that was there. And the story behind it, the data story that comes behind it is that there's this local organization, JMKP. They worked with the local government to get access to the data. And reading the data, they found out that 270 million Indonesian rupiahs, that's approximately 2,500 US dollars, were allocated actually for projects that would help resolve water sanitation and access issues, water access issues. So they used this very information to verify whether actual water, whether infrastructures for access to clean water were made. And after verifying that, they looked at the impact of this. And some of the things that they found were that access to clean water led to, one, more kids being able to stay healthy because they would play around and then they could just clean up afterwards and not be as prone to getting sick. Two, that the local women did not have to travel long distances anymore to get water from wells, wells that were more than 25 meters deep. And three, a very interesting finding was that now that people had clean access to water in their homes, they used the public parks less for their toilet businesses. Can you guys imagine how important that is? So, second photo is, again, we partnered with a local organization, and the story behind that is that they looked into the village-owned enterprises. I'm trying to formulate it in my head, sorry. They looked into the village-owned enterprises and saw what the byproducts were from there. And they saw that during the forums, there were long discussions about what the village should invest in and what problems need addressing, because there was an actual budget to invest for possible enterprises that would benefit the community. And they found that one of the biggest issues that their community had was overproduction of trash, much relatable, I guess, for a lot of other areas. But then they decided to work on a project or invest in an enterprise that would solve that. And this one is called Amarta, and you can find more of the story outside. Yeah, so just very quickly, one of the biggest challenges that we found was when you have different stakeholders, one, government, where you have to get data from, two, different organizations that you're partnering with different levels of skills in photography and reading data, it's very, very challenging. But with the right steps and with a lot of time and with patience, if you have very committed partners, if your project is very fit for purpose, then you can really succeed in it. Yeah, so again, we're the Open Data Lab in Jakarta. We are based in Jakarta. We have most of our projects in Indonesia, but we also have it in the Philippines and in other areas. We work with open data, and we try to find solutions to social problems using it. And we are kind of a baby organization of the World Wide Web Foundation. You can see the exhibit outside between stage 1 and the networking area. You can find out more about us through our website and our Twitter account. Follow us. And now I will hand you over to Ofrey, and after that to Gilberto.
While they change the computer, we welcome Ofrey Luna. He's from Bogota, Colombia, and he's one of the founder of a hackerspace in Colombia, which is called Hackabo. And also he's a consultant for, well, improving the skills of and leveling the ground in Colombia when it comes to enabling telling the stories with data, with open data. Ofrey Luna. Getting ready.
So this will be like a really, really quick talk. For me, 10 minutes in English is like a lot, so it's fine. Well, first, thank you for having me here and for being here. So the idea is that I will talk about what we are doing with data in Colombia, and we are trying to do this from a design approach. That means that we are trying to do an active understanding, trying to understand the stuff by doing the stuff. So I will try to tell you about the relationship between artifacts and communities. I will talk first about the place where this is happening, and after that, a community in particular. The place is or hackerspace, that is a physical space, and also is a digital space, is also located in the cyberspace. So we are mostly FLOSS, free, libre, open source software advocates. Like we have new members also, but mostly are old-timers. And it's a place that is self-assembled. It's, we run the space by yourself. It has not any formal organization behind. What gives us a lot of freedom. And we have this practice that is called the Data Week. So I will call about this Data Week stuff. The Data Week is some kind of combination between a workshop and a hackathon. So it's a workshop because it's about like learning by doing and by example. And it's also a hackathon because it's about like intensive prototyping and community building. For me, a hackathon, a real hackathon, no the fashionist one like now, but the real hackathon is a bridge between the past and the future of a community. So we're trying to make that in that space. And it's about also deconstructing power. So that's the idea. In our hackathon, we have a lot of different profiles. So our idea is not about like having these big hackathons with selfies and stuff like that. It's more about like having a lot of people from different places. And also we are trying to work on capacity building inside the community and inside the infrastructure. So it's not about this kind of forgetful hackathon where we do the stuff again and again and again, but we try to change the platform to put this kind of capacity inside the platform. So the next time we do the hackathon, the platform can address more complex problems. And we are trying to deconstruct critical divides. One is between software user and developer. We don't believe, it's a real divide now, but it's a false one between having the people who code and the people who don't, and this idea that you need to go to the coder. We want to create code as a common language, a wider language. We think that we can create stuff together if we have more wider common languages, and one of them is coding. So we think that tools model or taught, and if we have only a hammer, the problem with that is that, well, all the stuff start to see like the same, because that's the way that we model our thoughts. So all the presentations are in PowerPoint, all the writings are in Word. But we think that it could be like the other way around. So instead of having a single tool for different problems, we try to adapt the tool so it can be like working for a particular problem in a particular way. So we have this kind of very flexible problems that try to adapt to the very flexible tools that try to adapt to the problem. This is a first example of what we are doing there. It's about like visualization of, well, it doesn't look so nice here, but it's looking nice in a bigger resolution. So what we do was try to map absence of information. We start with this visualization from The Guardian that is mapping like lack of rights for the gay people. And we use that as a model for another problem about mapping absence of information for health, medicines. So we made some kind of changes there, and after that we got this visualization in particular. So we start with the problem, not with the data, and we start to modify the tool to suit the problem. Another critical divide that we are trying to address is the idea of data. So we think that data is the answer to a question that could be asked in a different way. So some data is immutable, like the speed of light. In Futurama it's not, but it is a fact. But most of the data is our design. We create tools to capture data, and we put them a lot of our thinking of what is data. So an important question for us is who becomes data of who. Most of the time, the power relationships are that the people without power becomes data of the powerful ones. That means usually governments and big corporations. But we think that we can reverse this datification process. So create data from the bottom up about what these big companies or entities are doing. One example, another way is that we are trying to make really simple infrastructures, not this kind of infrastructure that are really complex now. And we are trying to criticize the gap between big and small data. So we try to create what we call pocket infrastructures, that are infrastructures that work online or offline, that fit in your pocket, and that has all what is needed inside them. So we have two examples here. One is about Panama Papers. What we do was to create a mini site with a visualization and kind of a continuum environment. So the idea is that you have a single place where you can go from data to queries to code to visual to documentation in a single place. Not what we have now that is just raw data behind the browser and the browser to just click, but having this kind of bridge between raw data and all the stuff that is going between data and the final visualization in the browser. And we want also to make this, it's not properly showed here, but the idea is that all these artifacts has a public history, so you can trace what is happening and how this visualization and documentation and interactive stuff was built. And finally, we have this project that is called the Twitter Data Selfies. We are trying to show, we started with a question also, and we start with paper. This is about if someone is making a dialogue or a monologue in Twitter. So this is the Twitter profile. This is the amount of tweets, retweets, and replies. And this is the main words that he's tweeting or she's tweeting. This is the profile that she's replying to. And this is the replies, the profile that he's replying to. So in this kind of visualization, we try to see the amount of dialogue and monologue. Who is talking with who, from the point of view of the one who is making the tweets. And we start with this analog graphic and start to make some changes and to write the code for getting this kind of visualization. And this is the result of the end of the hackathon. It takes a week. So at the end, the people start to take their own data selfies. The idea is to invite people in power, so politicians, open foundations. That's the idea. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So now we're going to listen to Gilberto Vieira from Brazil, and he's working in the field of enabling from young cultures of young people in favelas also, and right, Gilberto?
Yes.
So, and well, it's a little bit of a rush, but I think the next one will be, and also just in case everybody's here, we will just continue with the next subject, also the 6 billions, how entrepreneurship is enabling leveling the ground for with digital help. Also, just stick to the ground and take some time.
Okay. So, hello everybody. I'm Gilberto, and in 2012 I went to Rio de Janeiro to work on Observatório de Favelas on Maré. And Maré is one of the biggest favelas in Brazil, and I used to work on a makerspace, it's called Olabi, working on bringing diversity to technology production. So, it's important to localize the favelas here. There are more than 700 in Rio, more than 1 billion people, is 22% of population. And the Brazilian Institute of Statistics consider normally these areas like subnormal agglomerates. And this is just an illustration of how the official narratives about favelas cause prejudice and distinction. The political action in these spaces are based on the security and ostensible presence of the police. The political action eliminates the diversity, art, and human productions from favelas. And we need to see this issue from a new paradigm. The result of this political praction is a genocide against the black and young population that's historically stigmatized in Brazil. We are the country where more kills in the world. In 2012, 56,000 people were murdered. Of these, 30,000 are young people between 15 and 29 years old, and of those, 77% are black. Most homicides are committed by firearms, and less than 8% of the cases can be judged. In this context, the Observatório de Favelas, and now the new Institute Maria and João Aleixo, aims to implement an agenda of rights to the city based on a new definition of slums, extending this to public policies. Well, especially me, since last year, I've been working on a project called Data Lab, that is a laboratory located in Maré and run by 7 youngsters to develop stories about ourselves through open data and digital tools, bringing to the main discussion visibility, identity, and participation. I bring here for you some examples of our work, just to illustrate. Here's a portrait of the woman who dies in pre-pregnant, pregnant, and post-pregnant in the state of Rio de Janeiro between 2009 and 2013. They are young, black, and low education level. Who discovered that and wrote that and designed that is a woman like that, and that makes difference. Another fellow tried to use data about transgender produced by the Brazilian government, and he discovered that they produce 0 data, and we need to see this population in Brazil. On the end of the last year, we mapped collectives, newspapers, blogs that make we call communitarian communication. And the map is open and collaborative. Exploring the concept of citizen-generated data, we are developing a project that uses a WhatsApp number to build a new database about sanitation in the city. And we discovered the Sustainable Development Goals, and this is the reason of these small squares there. And we think we have an important role on that, and we do not want to be left behind. Well, we don't have many certainties, but questions like how to promote collaboration, how to think and promote public policies through our work, how to encourage young networks, how to influence on that SDGs, and more how to sustain ourselves. I'm open to think and learn with you. Thank you and follow us. I think we have a little few minutes if you want to ask something for us or make some commentaries. I think we have some little minutes. I don't know, but thank you.
Any questions? Well, it's so many world and there's so little Republica to put it in, but thank you, all of you 3. And well, it's difficult to develop one question to all the 3 of you, so I'm just for the last part, how is it in Brazil when you work with official players and with with the community? How do you? Is there any? Is it still very grassroots, or is there? How is it becoming a structure? Is there help from some official part already, or is it still very hard in a hard fight?
No, I don't think so. I think there's some difficulties to come inside and work with people, but I think when you are open to that, we work with many NGOs and many grassroots groups and collectives, and there's, like I said, many collectives, many groups organized in favelas that are open to work, open to exchange with other parts of the city. So I don't think that's not a challenge, I think it's a natural thing. I think that's happen when you are every day working with and discussing and exchanging with the people.
Hello, I'm Christel Mahnke from Goethe Institute in Jakarta, and I just want to share that the project that Denise was talking about the exhibition was actually born here, because we met first at Republika. We are both in Jakarta, but it's a very big city. So we met here at Republika 2 years ago, and we decided we have to do something together. And then we did this and other projects as well, and the next one is already in the making. So Republika does change lives and does bring projects to life. Thank you, Republika.